Hi everyone and welcome back to the FPL Family YouTube channel. I'm Sam and today we are taking another deep dive into a Premier League side, and this time it is our local team and Premier League new boys, Watford. Now I for one am really excited to have Watford back in the Premier League. I kind of missed them last time around and I think we're in for a bit of a treat this time, particularly when it comes to their FPL assets. Now, a lot of the Watford players have come back into the game this time around at the same price point as they left at the end of the 19-20 season. So most of them relisted at the same price that they had previously, which is kind of comforting, I guess. It's no massive price jumps, no huge price drops either for the majority of players. There have, of course, been some price drops for some of them. Two of the key assets that have dropped in price from the last time that Watford were in the Premier League are goalkeeper Ben Foster, who's dropped from 5 million down to 4 million now, as he is no longer the Watford first choice keeper. He got a finger injury last season. That kept him out, and he was replaced in his absence by Bachmann, who we will talk about later, has retained the number 1 jersey for Watford, and we are expecting him to be first choice going into the new season. So a price jump for Foster, and also a price jump for captain Troy Deeney, back in the Premier League. Dropped this time from 6.5 to 5.5 million for him. I think game time's going to be difficult for all of the Watford forwards. They have currently got 10 forward players listed in FPL. I don't remember a time ever in my whole FPL career seeing 10 forwards from one club listed in one position, particularly in that forward position. And we have a little look at Watford last time around then. This is their record in the Championship last season. So they kept 23 clean sheets last season in the Championship, conceding just 30 goals over the course of the season. They were ranked first in the division across both of those areas. In fact, the goals conceded stat was record equaling. So that is now a Championship equaling record. So as you can see on the screen then, their home record: played 23, won 19, drew just 2, lost 2 at home this time, or last time around, and whilst there they scored 44 goals. So really good home form in particular. When we have a little look at what was conceded just 12, clean sheets 14 of those for them at home last season, and 59 points coming out of home fixtures for them last season. Now, when we have a little look at that, those stats already look impressive. When we have a little look at those stats, taking away the previous manager and looking just under Munoz, they conceded only 3 goals in 13 matches at home and kept 11 clean sheets. So the new manager bounce was well and truly there for Watford. Not that they really needed it, because actually they weren't doing that badly, but it's definitely there. And obviously coming into the Premier League this season, it looks to be a really good set of defensive underlying stats for us to pick from. From February onwards, they were playing in a 4-3-3 formation in the majority of their fixtures, with massively overlapping fullbacks, which again, from an FPL perspective, could be a really nice thing to have. Now, I mentioned already that Bachmann took over from Foster during the course of last season. He actually played for Austria at the Euros. Last time around, got 23 starts and 13 clean sheets for Watford. He also saved 4 penalties in all competitions. They all came in cup competitions last time around, but 4 penalty saves nonetheless for Bachmann last season. When we have a little look at what we're going to get from Watford defensively then, we have a number of big picks. We also have a couple that aren't pictured here, new signings for the club, the likes of Danny Rose coming in. So we've actually got 10 Watford defenders, much like their forwards. They seem to like the number 10. When we have a little look at the centre-back position, Serralto and Tross Ikong, I think, played the majority of last season, 12 clean sheets between them in 19 games that they played. So 12 clean sheets out of 19 games together is decent. Serralto made his debut on Boxing Day, was also top for goal attempts among Watford defenders last time around, 18 of those, 14 of them coming from inside the box. Word of warning though, he did get 9 yellow cards in those 26 games last season, so has got a habit of picking up yellow cards, and of course over the course of the season that's going to result in games missed through suspension. So it is something that we do need to be kind of careful of if we are going to pick him. But they also do have players like Kabasele, Cathcart and Pollock, who could easily come into those positions and take game time from them. In the right back position then we've got Femina, who, again, FPL favourite of a few seasons ago. He was the standout defender for me for Watford last season. 4 assists in 37 appearances in the Championship last time around. 30 key passes, which was more than the rest of the Watford fullbacks combined. He plays on right wing, and his relationship with Sarr last season was ridiculously good, as we will see from Sarr's underlying stats when we have a little look at him shortly. That was definitely their strongest position going forward last time, with the Firmino-Sarr relationship on that right wing. On the left-hand side, we've also got Adam Messina, 26 appearances for him last season and 2 goals. So again, potential for attacking threat from those fullbacks. Part of the EFL Championship team of the season, so looks like it's going to be him. Now, when we have a little look at these two guys and their heat maps, we have Firmino at the top and Messina at the bottom. Again, you can see how attacking that they are, and when you compare that to a number of the other wing-back or full-back options that we have across the Premier League, they are looking like making really good picks, particularly when you consider that they're coming into the game at 4.5 million. So we have real potential there to go with either of these two guys, less in the way of yellow cards for these than we have for Serralto. Also some real attacking threat, particularly from assists from these two, whereas maybe we've got a little bit more goal threat from Serralto. But between the three of them, I think we've got 3 really lovely defensive picks. Couple that with the goalkeeper, and for me, you can easily go Bachmann and Foster and have rotating or the potential for a always starting goalkeeper position at just 8.5 million if you pair the two of them together. So that could be really nice. Now, of course, as I mentioned before, and he's not pictured in this graphic, Watford now do have Danny Rose. He last played in the Premier League for Newcastle in the 1920 season. So he is definitely not necessarily going to be match fit coming into this season. So let's see what happens with him. I can't see him knocking out either of those two or any of these defensive players, to be quite honest. But we do have some decent options there when it comes to the Watford defence. We do have, Firmino does have a potential replacement there in Germany and Kanga. I don't know if I've pronounced that right. You know what my pronunciation is like by now, but he made 26 appearances last season, so he could offer a little bit of rotation worries there if you want to go Firmino. But I still think that Watford defensively look to be really solid. When we have a little look at their goals scored and look at the forward position last season, we see Sarr at the top then with 13, Juan Pedro with 9, Deeney with 7, Gray and Sema coming in at 5 each. So we've got some decent underlying stats for goals scored, but it is this that is problematic for Watford. So in the first column, we have all of the midfielders in the game, and in the second column, as mentioned, the 10 forwards that Watford currently have listed in the game. Now, I am fully anticipating that some of these 10 disappear off on loan or get sold during the course of this pre-season, but it is something that we do need to be a bit wary of, and we do run the risk of some real rotation worries with Watford if we invest going forward. They were the 6th best attack in the Championship last season, scoring 63 goals in 46 games. But they were beaten by both of the other newly promoted sides. So Brentford had the most goals across the Championship last time around with 79. Norwich with 75 came in second. And then Bournemouth 73, Cardiff 66 and Blackburn 65 all beat Watford. Watford were rarely free scoring, to be honest. They were the 9th fewest chances created across the Championship. They did get better though under Munoz when he arrived. It was nearly 1 in every 6 goals came from the penalty spot for Watford last time around. So they did convert 10, which was the most in the division. Of course, that's important and that's a good underlying stat, but it does affect the kind of free-flowing goals from open play stats, which we are also looking for. As mentioned, the goal output did get better under Munoz. It went from 1.15 goals per game to 1.54 goals per game. So significant improvements there. 40 from 26 under the previous manager and 23 from 20 other way around. 40 from 26 under the new manager, under Munoz, and 23 from 20 games under the old manager. So there were significant forward improvements, but that is still an area of the game that they can improve on, and that is potentially why we have so many signings. We've obviously seen Josh King arriving to play in that Watford front line as well during the summer, so we've got some significant improvements going on there. If the rate across Munoz was reflected across the whole of the season, i.e. had they played at that same rate as they did for him under those 26 games for the other 20 games of the season, they would have averaged 71 goals over the course of the season, which would have put them still in fourth, but it would have been more than Cardiff and Blackburn, but it would have still been behind both Bournemouth, Norwich and Brentford. So it would have been an improvement, but it still wouldn't have got them to the top of the charts. Most of the threat from the Watford players comes from the wide positions, and we saw already, as I mentioned here, that it was Sarr who scored the most goals for them. He is their most expensive player in the game this time around, coming in at 6 million. A top scorer, 13 goals, also 4 assists over the course of the season. He got 86 goal attempts, 57 shots in the box, which was more than any other Watford player last season, 42 key passes, which was second across the rest of that Watford side. His counterpart on the other side is Seema, 5 goals and 5 assists for him. He was the top creator with 51 key passes last season. Those two both look like potential good options. If you really need to save the money, then you could go Seema over Sarr. But for me, Sarr is the real standout enabler pick across this Watford side. At 6 million, he's coming in cheaper than the likes of Rafinha, but level in price with the likes of Harrison, who, if you've already watched the Leeds deep dive, you'll have seen, I think, is a really nice pick, plus the new signings video too, if you haven't already watched that one. I think that these two could be good picks. You can save yourself 0.5 by getting Seema, but if you can afford it, then stick with Sarr. Up top, as mentioned, it is a bit of a challenge. While Pedro got 9 goals and 2 assists last season, Dennis is one of their new signings, has played both Champions League and Europa League football with Club Brugge. So he has got pedigree, has got kind of the stats to back him up. Deeney is the captain. He's on penalties if he's on the pick. You've got Fletcher, who appears to be back up. We've got Josh King, who's just been signed. Giving Josh King's comments after leaving Everton about how he was promised game time under his time at Everton, and wasn't given it. Now you would expect that he's going to a club where he is hopefully going to get that more minutes and therefore more game time. So he's another one we can add into the mix. We've got Hernandez and Mboud, who both potentially are likely. I think Mboud is likely to go out on loan, so he's one we don't need to really think too much about. Hernandez is a youngster. He's training with the first team, but again, probably not going to make the first team on a regular basis. I think what we can see, though, looking at what's happening, is that with the arrival of Josh King, with Deeney, with Pedro, we are starting to see the likes of Gray and Success and Perica, who are less likely to get game time. So we're kind of looking at these top options in terms of price tag. Deeney, I think, will play if fit. When you look at the fixtures that he played in last season, if he was fit and available, he did play, and I suspect that'll be the same going into the new season. So at 5.5, he's a nice cheap option if you want to go for a cheap third forward that you don't mind benching every now and then. Same with Juan Pedro, I think you could go with him also, and potentially Josh King. But the rest of them I'd be wary of, even though Watford did relate to playing into a 4-3-3 over the course of the majority of the back end of the season, since February last time out. We do have real risk of rotation here with all of these players when we look at how many potential options you've got in both midfield and in that striker position. So I think for me, Sarr looks to be the one that I would be going for if I was going to go with an attacking player. He offers great value for money in that nice, cheap midfielder spot, and his attacking returns last season were better than any other Watford player. Defensively, you've got lots of decent options, all in that 4.5 bracket, and that double keeper option, I think, is something that I am really seriously going to consider going into the new season, because at 8.5 for 2 playing keepers, or 2 keepers that you know you've always got one to play, because if Bachmann is for whatever reason not playing, you've got Foster to come in and replace him, feels really lovely. If you've enjoyed the video, hit that like button for me. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to talk to me about your Watford picks, who do you think is the best Watford pick? Are you going for a Watford defender? Are you taking a punt on one of those 10 Watford forwards? Leave me a comment in the description below and let me know. Thanks for watching, guys.